How's the change of environment? Pre-season, coach, how's the change of environment for you?
Yeah, it's been really good. I'm really enjoying the experience, and especially now we're getting close to games and training's getting a bit more exciting and a bit more match play and working with the guys, and they've all shown good levels of improvement. So really enjoyed it so far.
What about the relationship from where you were last year as part of the playing group to being now, of course, involved in the coaching staff, and the dialogue and the communication with being the players? Because they've had to have a shift when it regards to seeing you as a different person in the group.
Yeah, I guess a little bit. I think last year I obviously did a bit of coaching anyway, and part of my relationship, I always knew that I was going to go into this role. So that made me, shape the relationships in that kind of way that I always knew that I'd end up coaching some of these guys. So sort of made some stepping stones last year and built some relationships as a player, but then now to be able to have the coaching role, I think it helped, and now hopefully our bit of a jump start on the relationship side of things, which has been great so far.
You're pretty driven. Do you see this period for how long? Have you set yourself a timeline when you'd like to actually be in charge of an AFL club?
No. I thought we were talking about the boys. We don't need to be talking about me. It's not interesting.
Are you missing playing yet though? Like, has it kicked in that you're not out there as part of the playing group?
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't miss it at all. I loved playing. It's the greatest job you can have, but I wouldn't trade it for what I'm doing now. I really am loving what I'm doing, and I don't miss it. I know a lot of guys, when they finish, they just, they watch the training and they wish that they could still get out there and do it, but there's not been one thing that they've done that I think, gee, I wish I was still doing that. I love the role I have, and there's nothing surer than that I made the right decision to hang them up last year. I certainly was at the end of what I was able to achieve in the game as a player. So very excited about the next phase and being able to help these guys go from where they are now to hopefully improving and making them better as individuals and then as a collective.
What do you think they can achieve as a team? I mean, you're taking out 2 Brownlow medalists now. What do you think that is a realistic goal for 2018?
I think everyone out there can improve. There's huge opportunity, particularly in the midfield, sort of the area I control. There's a huge amount of opportunity, and there's so many young guys that are trying to jump up into that realm and take those spots. And I think that the level of improvement and enthusiasm that you see, I'm not sure if you guys hang around for training, but the vibrancy that we get out of every session has been outstanding. So I think onwards and upwards, and I think there's going to be some good things coming out of the side in the early part of the year.
The midfield was probably viewed as the weaker part of the team last season in terms of pace and whatnot. What's going to change from last year to this year?
Well, taking Predator and myself out will change the pace a fair bit. So I think that there's going to be a different look. It'll be a different dynamic. I mean, a lot of things are different. I think when we run out, it's going to be different jumpers at a different stadium. Different personnel. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, I can't wait for the stuff to start. Even AFLX is going to be different. We're going to have some young guys that are going to be really exciting. And then when we get to JLT, and then when eventually round 1 comes, we're going to be chomping at the bit, trying to get out there and show that we've done all this work. And sometimes in pre-season, everyone's buoyant, everyone's undefeated, every team in the competition has got really high hopes, but you don't know if it all comes together until you actually play legitimate competition. And I think we're getting ready to that point when we're getting a bit frustrated with the training and we want to actually get out there and play. And I think the boys are training in a way that shows they're ready to play real games now.
With the changes, this pre-season with the JLT and the AFLX, 2 different versions to work with, is it more important for you guys than what it would previously be in terms of just working out what you're going to do?
Well, I think the AFLX is a great experience. It's a great sort of training drill anyway, so we've been having a bit of an explore with that, and there's lots of different ways to play, and I don't think we're going into AFLX desperate to win. I think we want to experience it and we want to go well, but that's been a great way to explore some different ways to play the game. And I think with our group, particularly with our leaders, we've got a group of really strong leaders who I think can take us to the next level as far as shaping the game themselves, rather than always having it come from coaches. I think as coaches, we know we're doing a good job when the players are driving a lot of the program, and at the moment they've taken that next step in designing drills for us and implementing drills to try and help us improve in areas that are a focus for us.
Where's that come from, Sam? That drive and the player group becoming empowered?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is the coaches, and Simo in particular, giving freedom and saying, we want you guys, we think we need to work on these areas. if you guys can help us, we'd love that. And so then they go away and come up with drills, and Shannon Hearn obviously is the leader of that, and then he's got Luke Shuey and Josh Kennedy, who Josh Kennedy's been in and out of the track, but when he's been away, he's really thinking about the game and working on ways to make us better off the field, so that we can get that implementation so that it can happen on the field. And when you get strong leaders that are working really well together, Jeremy McGovern has been coming up with defensive drills to help everyone defend, hopefully half as well as he can. So when you get that sort of buy-in from your players, I think that really puts you on the right track.
There's a lot of fans wondering where Nick Nananui's at. Initially it was meant to be before Christmas back to full training, then slightly after Christmas, and we're already in February now. Where does he sit at the moment?
Well, at the moment he's aimed for round 1, but he hasn't got into the competitive stuff yet. You know, the risk of putting him into competitive work at any point is there. So whenever we do that, it needs to be at the right time and with as little amount of risk as possible. But there always is some risk once you start competitive action. So he'll implement that over the next couple of weeks. And at this stage, he's aiming for round 1 to be ready for that. But you know, I'm not the medicos, and they say he's on track for that. But what he has to do between now and then, there's still some hurdles to jump over.
And a JLT game?
I'm not sure. I didn't ask that before I came up. Sorry about that. I probably should have.
So you've done plenty of pre-seasons. A few of the main players have had interrupted pre-seasons. Will that hurt the team going into the early part of the AFL season?
I don't think so. I think it comes down to what we call training age. If you have a good base of work behind you, you can get away with missing a little bit of pre-season. I think the times that you really struggle is when you're a young player, you're 21, 22, and you miss a significant block of pre-season. Then you can find it hard to have sustainability through the year. But older guys like Luke Shuey's missed a week or so. Gaff missed a week. Josh Kennedy has trained for 10 years. So they've got a big base to come back to. And so when they get back into the program and they start training, they ramp up more quickly than, say, younger guys that you need to protect a little bit more. So I think you don't want anyone to have a slower pre-season, but if you do have guys that can get away with it, it's probably the older group that have a better training history.
What's it like for you as a coach, being able to coach someone like Natanui in the midfield group?
Yeah, I love how driven they are. Like a guy like Nick, he's got beautiful soft hands, great touch with his hands, but he's always working on it. Like, you kind of think, oh, he's born with that, lucky bugger. But he grabs us, he comes and says, oh, come on, can we do some work on it? And he just, for 100, 200 balls, hitting them into bins, trying to get it perfect. And they work so hard on their craft. Luke Shuey in the gym, he's working on his power all the time. Elliot Yeo is the same. And when we do our running, the good runners, Gaff and Maston and these guys, they just work so hard on what they're good at already, that it's no wonder that they're close to the best in the competition in those areas. So I love watching guys work on. I mean, everyone has to work on their weaknesses, but when you watch them work on the things they're good at, that's what gets you excited as a coach.
Yeah, you did get to work under Natanui last season, but now as a coach, he's a really big guy, and obviously we know knees can take a while to come back from. How long do you think it will take him to really get in the groove and regain top touch?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's a compromised athlete with his knees. He's got that's going to be an issue for him. But I think his best is still going to be absolutely outstanding. How often we see it and how soon we can see it, only time will tell. But I think his diligence to his program and the way he goes through his program, I think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to get anywhere and say, "Gee, I could have done more." I think he's that guy that says, "You know what? Whatever happens, I've done everything I can to get myself right, to give myself the best chance to play." And as an athlete, at the end of the day, that's all you can do. What the outcome is at the end, you don't have all that much control over that. So all you can do is your program and make sure you put the faith in the medical staff, and they're doing a good job. And at this point, it's all going on track, and he should be out there for round 1 for us.
People talked about Luke Shuey possibly being even the skipper this season, and well done to Shannon. You're not in the midfield. Have you noticed that Luke's ready to take over your mantle as the leader, even more so in the midfield this season?
Well, I think with Pritter, he was the leader of this club's midfield from what I can tell as an outsider the last 10 years. And there were some great players going through there in that stage, but so much of what this midfield has been about is off the back of Pritter. And so now with him going out of the side, there is that void, not just of a position, but also of the leadership and of setting everyone up and making sure everyone's in the right places at the right times and understanding the state of the game at different stages, making sure all those things are going. Is really important. And I think Luke Shuey and Jack Redden and Andrew Gaff, these guys are all strong leaders of our footy club, and I think that they can help share share the load, but I think Luke Shuey will, he'll lead the way in the midfield, and when things aren't going well, I'm sure I'll be on the phone to him when he's on the bench to say, okay, what's going on down there, because he's the guy that he can look after what he has to do, but then he also is experienced enough now to see what's going on a big picture, which is really important on the field.
What's the balance going to be training-wise between being here and being back at Lass Lane from now and during the season and stuff?
I've got absolutely no idea. Soxy might be able to answer that a bit better. We've been mixing up in between a little bit. Obviously, we have the two fields there, but it pops up a little bit of wind and all those sorts of things. So we just pick horses for courses for each session. So at the moment, we're training here the last couple of sessions, but I'm sure we'll be back at Lath Lane.
Boundary line's really, really close to the fence.
Yeah.
How close have you got it to Optus?
I think the length is right, and I think it's 1 metre on each side, thinner. So it's basically the same as Optus. We just have to tell the boys to be a bit careful near the fence because there's only a foot or two. So we blow the whistle a bit early when it's going out close to the boundary line. But the players work it out pretty well. The guys that have played here a long time have really noticed the difference. So it's going to be a challenge, but really exciting. I mean, how exciting's Optus? I don't know if you've all seen the light shows and the cricket that's been there, and so the boys are so excited to get out there and play some real footy on the big deck.
Sitting there watching the cricket and the games you play, the dimension difference to this is dramatic when you look at it and how wide the pockets and things like that. How long will it take blokes actually? Instinct is everything. They're going to turn around and have more space this side and different space that side. What's it going to take to get used to it, do you reckon?
Well, I think we've trained on that for the majority of pre-season. Even as you said, we've changed the ground here to fit those dimensions. So I think the boys are getting used to it. Plus, half the games of every season are on fields that size. Only half the games being at Subi. So I don't think it'll take too long. And I think our home ground advantage at Optus will come pretty quickly.